a video to demonstrate the flow of data on using the Auto MPG data set. This one takes more prep than our first few demos, the most prep in so far, but not that bad. So let's get to it. Okay, so we have this document which is available to you, and hopefully you printed it out and are reading along with it. So we'll just go down here, and the first thing we're going to do is get the data set. After that, we'll load it and train a model. After that, we'll prepare the data and files and then run Camanja. And then we'll take a look at the results and compare the results from Camanja to those from the R data language, from using the tools in the R data language. Okay. So the first thing is our objective is going to be to train a model and show the process of that, and export PML, which is a way of recording the model, and then load that model into Camanja and run it. And then we will take the production scores that come out of Camanja for this data and verify it against what came out of the R language. And we do have some assumptions here. And those assumptions are that you have already installed Camanja and its associated programs, Zookeeper and Kafka. And one thing we can do here is do a quick test to see if indeed you have those. And to do that, we're going to go up into the terminal window. So let's go find the terminal window. Well, that's one way to do it. Another way to do it would be to actually find the document, but for now we'll just assume that you can find the terminal. You can always search for it if you're familiar with Mac. And so what we're going to do is we're going to copy these lines from the document, for example, like this. And we see that Camanja Home is correctly defined. So now let's go to Kafka Home, and there are no errors coming out. So this tells us that both that the symbol is defined and that we are going to a real directory. Okay, and we see that we change directory each time. If we had somehow gotten the symbol wrong, we might have had this kind of thing, which would give us go nowhere, and so we wouldn't go to the correct directories. Okay, so presumably you already have R installed and the Rattle package. By the way, we have at camanja.org some videos to help you, to show you the process of installing Camanja, Zookeeper, and Kafka. Installing primarily Camanja, and then these other programs are ones that are part of the collection of programs that run along with Camanja in a production environment. Okay, so we're going to use the Rattle package in this demo, which is something that will allow people who don't have a lot of R programming experience to do this work anyway. Okay, and we're working on a Mac, of course, at least as you can see, and we're going to be using that command line terminal that we opened earlier. So the first thing we want to do is get the data set, the AutoMPG data set. This is a well-known, it's small, but a well-known data set that has enough records to be useful. We're going to get it from the UCI repository of a bunch of data sets that are used for learning about machine learning. And we'll click on that. And you'll see that there's over 300 data sets in this repository. So there are two ways we can find this. We can find it either by these choosers on the side. For example, we can choose regression, and at the same, so we can choose our data set two different ways. One way is to choose by going to regression and then by mixed data attributes, and we see that the AutoMPG data set comes up. Another way to do it is to go over here to the search box and type in AutoMPG, and we have our search results here, and so we click on this one and it takes us directly to the page for AutoMPG. Now that we're at that page, we can see some information about the page, and you see that these are the same kinds of steps that are in the document here. So we see that there are two data folders, or two folders, and we'll go into the data folder and pick these two pieces of data, these two files, and then we see we'll see what's in them. Okay, so the data folder has the actual data, which we can download as a text file by doing this and then saying file and save as. And so we'll select the default name and we'll let it go into our downloads directory, and we will append a .text to it. And we'll do a back, and we'll go get the names, go through the same kind of thing. Now you see in this names document, here are the names down towards the bottom of the page, the attributes, but there's also other information that you can read through about the data set. And again, we'll do a file, save as, save, and append. Now, if we look at the data set description, we see that it's basically the same as that names file. And let's just make things easier to navigate. We'll do that. Okay. We can see that there are other places that we can find information about various data files if we want to try some other data files. And this is just what that page looks like, and we can see that there is various information on it about how many records it has and the date that it was contributed to the repository. That page and the documents have interesting information about the data. Okay, so now we want to prepare the data and load it and train a model. Now, preparing the data, we'll get to in a minute. Let's talk about PMML that we're going to be producing. So there is a specific PMML package, and more information about it can be found by clicking on this link in the document. And we'll see that the R package, the R package in the R language, supports a number of various other R packages that it uses in order to create models. There are even more models out there, but these are the ones that are supported by the PMML package that allow us to do generating of PMML. So the first thing that we want to do is the names, the field names that we got from the AutoMPG data, the field, actually, the names that we got from there, we want to take those and add them to our data. And there are various different ways of doing that. All this is going into our downloads section. See what we've got there. We've got several files. Some of those files were from when we downloaded and installed the package and software packages of Kamaja, Zookeeper, and Kafka. All right, so let's focus on this one, AutoMPG names.txt, and you can use whatever editor you're familiar with or comfortable with. I personally like VI. So I'm going to take VI and separate out these names. So I'm going to see, let's see, we've got 9 lines of data here. So I'm going to use some VI commands to select those. Well, we want them eventually to be a CSV file, so I'm just going to put that in the CSV file. So now you have the names of the columns, and you have the data, and you can use your favorite text editor or Excel or other tools to combine them to make this line of column names the first line of the file. And once you've done that, you'll see that it looks like this. And yeah, the names, the columns are not directly over the exact columns, but that's okay. They're all separated by tabs and spaces, and our tools will figure it out. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is run the Rattle tool. And to do that, we either need to run R, or we can run my favorite, the RStudio tool. So I'll go open up RStudio. And now we can prepare to run Rattle. And then we can actually run Rattle. And we see the screen has several different areas. There's an area of buttons here that we'll be using: the execute button, the save button, export and quit. And underneath that, there's a set of tabs, a line of tabs here. We'll be using the Data tab to load and configure data, and the Model tab to pick the model that we want to do, Evaluate, and Log to get more information out. And then there's a set of options for each tab. And then there's a screen area where Rattle will communicate. So now let's pick our file, which is going to be our CSV file. Now, this is not actually a comma separated value file. The columns are separated by white space. So in some cases, multiple spaces or tabs. So we need to just completely remove anything from this separator field in order to make that work. Okay, so we read that in. Now we see that it tried to pick target cylinders. The cylinders column is the target, and that is not the case. We want the MPG to be the target. And there's some things that don't make any difference, like car name, so we can make that ignorable. Now that we've made these changes, we need to go execute again so that our Rattle knows that we finished making those changes. Not going to change our mind on those for now. So now we'll go pick a tree, and we do want to do, well, we're picking a model, and we do want to do a tree. And we'll just execute that. And we see that the tree did execute, and we will take the various parts of the tree here. We'll save, actually what we'll do is we'll save the Rattle file, which means the configuration of the Rattle tool at this point, and we'll save it in our downloads folder. And we'll go to evaluate, and we will evaluate. What we're going to do is actually we're going to score all this. We're going to use the Evaluate tab to get the scores of the full database. And when we do that, we also want to use all of the columns, not just the identifiers. Okay, so now we will execute that. And again, Rattle is telling us a file name that it suggests using, and we could go in and change that, but instead we'll save this in downloads. And next we'll go to the model itself, and we will export the model, which will be in PML format, which PML is a type of XML, and so Rattle uses the .xml at the end of the file name. And finally, we'll go to the log, and the log is actually a list of R commands that Rattle has been building while it is following our instructions. So we will save that as well, and you see it has a .r. It is an actual executable R file.